My name is Gail Harvey. I am a registered lobbyist for Rhode Island Now, but I am a volunteer. I do this of my own free time, and I pay my own fee. We have submitted 2 letters to you about the bills, but today I'm not here representing Rhode Island Now, and I'm not here as a lobbyist. I'm here as a woman who has had 2 abortions. And I would like you all to remember my face when you consider these bills. Today, we've heard some amazing testimony, and I'd just like to say that this bill, 274, will give people choices. There is always a choice. If you don't want an abortion, you don't have to have one. I've submitted my own personal testimony, which is way too long to go into today to bore you, but it is my personal story. And I'm going to say very honestly, I'm getting a little tired of having to always tell my personal story 2 and 3 times in public to protect women to have their choice, to have the right to choose. But I don't mind it because I'm old, and what's going to happen to me? Nothing. So, as a young unmarried woman in the mid-1960s, and I had an abortion as a young married woman in 1973. My first abortion was necessary because I was 20 years old, and I was in no position to get married and to have a child. The procedure saved my life. New York State saved my life because in 1973, when I had my second abortion, New York State gave women the right to choose. And that's what we're all talking about here today, because Roe v. Wade hangs by a thread. And Rhode Island needs to give the women of this state the right to choose. The procedure, when I had it at 20, saved my life, so I could go on to marry the man I am still with 58 years later. So I have 4 stepchildren, I have 2 daughters, I have 9 grandchildren, and God bless her, I have a great-grandchild who's 8 months old. So obviously, I am pro-life. I got married in 1970, and in September 1972, before they did sonograms, big surprise, I had twins in the delivery room. 3 months later, and one night, I got pregnant again. My second abortion was one of an economic necessity. It had nothing to do whether I wanted that baby or not, or my husband did. It was plain and simple economic necessity. There was the health and well-being of my 2 infants who would barely be 1 year old when another baby would enter their lives. There were tremendous financial burdens on my husband, as he had 4 children by a previous marriage, and he had child support bills. And he was in publishing in New York City, and it was glamorous, but it didn't pay bupkis. There was a small cramped apartment in Brooklyn, and there was the necessity that I knew that I had to go back to work. But there were no safety nets for me in New York City in the 1970s, and so it would be 10 years before I could go back to work. If I had had that other baby, it would have been 12 years, as it was. When our children went shopping, they went to my sister's house, and we came home with brown bags full of clothes. Perfectly fine with me, but there was no money. These bald facts of economics and the situation I was in as a woman and a married woman made the decision starker and more compelling than the agony of our decision to end my pregnancy. Today, this issue is not as simple as bad girls get abortions and good girls have families. Women choose abortions most often because they do not have economic options. As was true in my case, the cause of most abortions is not having access to economic entitlements like affordable childcare, living wages, paid sick days. Organizations claim to be pro-life, but they're really only pro-birth. Where are their voices in doing what's necessary to support women in carrying a baby to term, in providing paid family leave, in providing maternity leave, in parental leave, in providing reasonable costs for childcare? The litany goes on and on. I have testified many times over the past 2 years for bills supporting paid sick leave, raising the minimum wage, and salary equity for women in the workforce. Yet I have not seen or heard any of the pro-life forces at these hearings. If you are really serious about pro-life, you can't just look at birth. Abortion, as the doctors will testify, is the most regulated medical care, and it is the only politicized medical care in the United States. How can you be a free person if you cannot control when and if or how to have a child? 1 in 3 women has previously been testified will have or has had an abortion. So that means there's more than one of us in this room. Why does anyone think women should not have the right to make these decisions privately and under the care of a doctor in a legal and safe environment? Rather than outlaw abortion, let's focus on furthering economic development for women. If this had been true in 1973, my husband and I would have never had to make the still hard and painful decision that we did. I really ask you to consider this bill very seriously. I know it's hard, but let me tell you something, abortion's hard too.